Hi, it's Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveCareHotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives of families of critically ill patients in intensive care, so that you can have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. This is another episode of Your Questions Answered, and in last week's episode I answered another question from one of our readers, and the question last week was part 1 of My mother is in intensive care after her heart stopped. We believe that the intensive care team is keeping her sedated and paralyzed for longer than necessary. What should we do? You can check out the answer to last week's question by clicking on the link below this video. In this week's episode of Your Questions Answered, I want to answer the next question that Trudy from the UK has, as her mother continues to be in intensive care after the cardiac arrest. So therefore, in today's episode of Your Questions Answered, I want to answer part 2 of My mother is in intensive care after her heart stopped. We believe that the intensive care team is keeping her sedated and paralyzed for longer than necessary. What should we do? Hi Patrick, thank you. It was indeed a pleasure to talk to you on Skype as well. Things are now going well. I went straight to the hospital after talking to you. They had taken the tube out of Mum's mouth. She had a mask on all the time. She was doing pretty well, she was speaking, etc. But then they said her CO2 or carbon dioxide levels were too high, and this might be due to neurological impairment. They considered putting her back on the ventilator. Obviously we wanted Mum to be safe, but the big message I took from you was try to stay off the ventilator. So in the end they tried a more fitted mask and her CO2 or carbon dioxide levels improved. The intensive care team made us leave whilst the doctors were discussing this. We tried to resist, but in the interests of maintaining a calm bedside, we stepped just outside and they walked us away. We will be addressing their confidentiality issues at a formal meeting tomorrow morning. My feeling is that a constant mask is better than a tube, but still it's essentially ventilation. Although the intensive care team said they are gradually reducing the oxygen they give, and if Mum needs a bit more help, then fair enough. Her progress overall is good. My dad was telling her that what you said about moving around to help her oxygen levels, and she made a real effort to move her arms and legs, and after some physiotherapy made another big jump in her calm, alert and comprehensive state. So overall, some small setbacks, but lots of leaps forward. We've got some barriers to challenge tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to planting some seeds of change. Dad's very happy to do an interview in a while and perhaps get Mum involved as well. I will of course like your Facebook page. I've already mentioned you on my Facebook account. Thank you so much. Your advice and support has been amazing. Best wishes, Trudy. Hi Trudy, that's encouraging news. It sounds like your mother's increased CO2 or carbon dioxide levels could be partly because there is still some sedation in your mother's system, or given that you mentioned that she has asthma, a higher than normal CO2 or carbon dioxide levels is what normally comes with asthma. High CO2 or carbon dioxide levels can of course also be a result of neurological deficits. However, given that you are saying that your mother is talking and that she's already moving, I think that this is encouraging indeed. If your mother needs the oxygen mask for the next few days to keep her off the ventilator, so be it. And even if she needs a tightly fitted mask, a BiPAP mask, for the next few days to get her CO2 or carbon dioxide levels down to normal levels, to keep off the breathing tube and the ventilator, so be it. I've also included some information about BiPAP and non-invasive ventilation below this video. You can check it out. So the related links are put in there is number 1, what is BiPAP ventilation? What is non-invasive ventilation? How long is a patient kept on a BiPAP machine in intensive care? You can check those articles out by clicking on the links below this video in the written version of this blog. It's also good to hear, Trudy, that your mother is calm, alert and comprehensive. That's encouraging news as well, and doesn't point towards a neurological impairment or deficit. Also, I can see why you left the bedside, in order to not upset your mother and keep everything quiet and peaceful. I still feel that in this day and age there should be absolutely no need to send families of critically ill patients in intensive care outside. Where's the transparency? What do intensive care teams discuss that the patient but not their families can listen to? But that's exactly what intensive care teams have done for decades. They position themselves as the quote-unquote perceived authority and the quote-unquote perceived power. And that's not the worst thing. The worst thing is that families buy into the intensive care team's perceived power positioning. But it's good to hear that you have a family meeting tomorrow, and it's good that you will bring up confidentiality issues. Planting some seeds of change can be challenging in an environment where the intensive care team is so used to be running the show, and they get away with all sorts of arrogant behavior because families of critically ill patients in intensive care feel gratitude and they feel indebted towards the intensive care team. You have to be aware of these psychological dynamics at play, because otherwise the intensive care team will continue to keep you at arm's length. All the best, Trudy, and let me know if you have any other questions. So, how can you have peace of mind, control, power and influence whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of peace of mind, control, power and influence when you download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn quickly how to get peace of mind, real power and real control, and how you can influence decision making fast whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free Instant Impact Report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language, so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions. Discover the many competing interests in intensive care and how your critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests. How to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle and vulnerability, even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 killer tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to peace of mind, control, power and influence in your situation. You will get real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your and your critically ill loved one's situation. How to stop being intimidated by the intensive care team and how you will be seen as equals. You will get crucial behind the scenes insight so that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care, and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's Your Questions Answered, and I'll see you again in another update next week. Make sure you also check out our blog section for more tips and strategies, or send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions. This is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com, and I'll see you again in another update next week.